For more on the latest developments in the Middle East, though, and how investors should be thinking about what's next, let's bring in the former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren. He joins us from Tel Aviv. He's also a former member of Israel's parliament, the Knesset, and a former deputy minister in Israel's prime minister's office. Ambassador Oren, it's great to have you. Thank you very much for taking the time. What are you hearing over there as far as what comes next and how long this might last?
Well, great to be with you. Good morning. Interesting, a dynamic situation here. On one hand, the number of Iranian missiles has fallen, in some cases precipitously from the first days of the war, 11, 12 days ago. Though this morning, something in the order of 30 missiles hit, but earlier in the morning was only one missile fired at us. This is in contrast to the 200 missiles fired at the beginning of the conflict and 300 missiles fired each time Iran attacked us in October and April of 2024. So the Israel Defense Forces have ratcheted up a level of destruction of Iranian missile sites and launchers. Over 50% of those launchers have been destroyed right now, and we're feeling the consequences here, even in Tel Aviv, where we're running roughly twice a night into our family bomb shelter. Diplomatically, the Israeli government has indicated that it is willing to consider a ceasefire should Iran reciprocate and should Iran return to the negotiating table on the basis of dismantling its military, its nuclear infrastructure, which is precisely the demand of the White House at this time. Iran has not responded to this so far, but this is an interesting development because Israel had not been willing to consider a ceasefire until it had achieved most of its military goals in Iran. And the prime minister just came out very shortly and said that most of Israel's military objectives have been achieved in Iran.
What about the nuclear objectives? What do we know about how much has been achieved, both with the U.S. and Israel?
Well, you have different estimates coming out of the United States between significant damage and obliteration. I think Israel would go on the side of err, on the side of accuracy, say extensive damage. We're still dealing with the location of the nearly 650 kilograms of enriched uranium, some of it to 20%, some of it 60%. But that's, in either case, it's a short distance between that 20 or 60% and 90%, which is weapons grade, fissile material, which is buried underground. We don't know if this has been destroyed, but as long as there's no firm evidence that it has been destroyed, then Iran could conceivably enrich that uranium to 90%. It doesn't take very much. Iran has intercontinental ballistic missiles that can carry nuclear warheads. It has been working on an warhead. You put those three together, and you've got yourself a nuclear power. So that remains a serious consideration both for Israel and the United States. An interesting development.
One would expect at this point, Ambassador, that given the destruction or the degradation that's taken place, the centrifuges that conceivably would be used to enrich that uranium no longer exist, nor do the missiles or the launchers to actually have the ballistic missiles that would have them on it.
Well, they're different launchers. Let's be careful about this. They're launchers that take rockets into outer space. Iran has a space program, has a satellite program. That's the same rocket they use that could hit Berlin or Paris right now, and in 10 years it could probably hit Washington and New York, and certainly could hit Israel. That's no problem. And I'm sure they're keeping some of those in a safe place. But we don't know, again, whether there are still underground secret enrichment sites. There was a mention in the New York Times today about the existence of such a site not far from the Isfahan site. So there could be, and you don't need that many centrifuges to ratchet up the 60 or 20% to the 90%. So ultimately, the fate of the 650 kilograms will be determined probably not by military means, but at the negotiating table. And this war will end one way or the other with one type of Iranian leadership or another at that negotiating table. And one of the primary demands of the United States and Israel behind the United States will be for the removal of that stockpile of enriched uranium.
Do we need to wait for international inspectors to sort of make that call, or do you think outward intelligence can be enough?
I think a combination of the two. Intelligence, Israeli intelligence has penetrated Iran to a very deep depth, knowing where Iranian military leaders live, knowing where nuclear scientists live, setting up a armed drone base in the middle of Iran by Mossad agents, And I think that the Iranian leadership, those that remain, are highly paranoid and for a very good reason. And they're hiding up in the mountains somewhere. They can't trust their own people around them. But even the most successful, penetrating intelligence is going to be limited at some point. And a great example of it would be the Fordo site itself, which the Iranians managed to build secretly under a mountain. It was not discovered till the end of 2008 by American and Israeli intelligence, and then made public by the International Atomic Energy Agency in 2009. But here they were able to build an entire nuclear site under the nose of international scrutiny and intelligence agencies. So it's not perfect. It is very impressive, but not perfect. And Israel's margin for error here, and I cannot stress that enough, Israel's margin for error is exactly zero.
Right. So you did mention something that I just want to follow up on, which is you said with one leader or another, and, you know, with President Trump floating in a post the idea of regime change. I think he said, make Iran great again.
Right.
What do you think Israel's prerogative is at this point, and what do you think we'll see?
I think our priority would be for the demilitarization of Iran. And that just includes not just the nuclear program, but Iran's ability to support terror around the Middle East, around the world. Iran has been complicit in the massacre of literally hundreds of thousands of people in our area. It's attempted to assassinate the President of the United States, former Secretary of State. They tried to assassinate me about 10 years ago, and as you see, they didn't succeed, but still in downtown Washington. So this is a terror-supporting regime. We'd like to see that change. Now, whether the regime can actually alter its DNA and be something other than it is a jihadist regime that wants to conquer the Middle East and then use the Middle East as a springboard for global domination. Whether that regime can change remains very much to be seen. So when the president calls for a regime change in Iran, and the prime minister here has called on the Iranian people several times to rise up and overthrow their leadership, I don't think anybody would be disappointed if a different Iranian leadership came to the table. But at the end of the day, that's also going to be the prerogative of the Iranian people. They're going to have to make that decision. We're not going to be able to impose a different regime or different leadership by military means. I think that America's had some very painful experiences in that way, and we're not going to replicate them. This is certainly the decision of the Iranian people. We hope they make it.
Ambassador Michael Oren, thank you very much. Really valuable to have you here from Tel Aviv this morning.
Goodbye, Tate.
Tonight.
Thank you.